to Sunday. It is September the 25th. It is 5:36 p.m. in the afternoon on the West Coast. I should start saying that because there are people from different time zones that listen to me. So here in Southern California, it's 5:36 p.m. And before I start this conversation, I want to definitely make this clear that I have absolutely no idea what happens after we die. I have not died and come back. So that's it. I want to make sure that I'm very clear about that. Now, I've made this clear on previous occasions when I've spoken, I think, about this, but I always like to make sure that people understand that I don't know what happens after we die, despite the fact that I have the access that I have, and I have been on the astral plane and all these different things. That, in my mind, in my opinion, in my view, does not give me some special insight on what happens after we die. I get a glimpse of certain things. So that's it, guys. That's what I want to make clear before I start this conversation today. But I wanted to talk about this because I got into a very interesting discussion with my mother yesterday after an experience that I had, and I wanted to share it with you because I think there are so many people that talk about this, and I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, interestingly enough. But today I'd like to share some thoughts and some theories about this, especially after I finished talking with my mom. So first, you should know that I had a brief experience yesterday morning, one that I didn't end up recording. It was very brief, but I wanted to use it kind of as an example as to why I wanted to talk about this today. This happened right before I woke up in the morning. And interestingly enough, this is something that I have talked with you guys before about getting that moment right before you wake up, because that is a mystical moment. That is a magical moment right before we wake up. We are in that in-between space. We're just coming off that bridge that I always talk about between consciousness and sleep. We're coming off of that bridge from the dream world. And there is a moment, if you can capture that moment, you have a really good chance of, I think, in my belief, leaving your body or having another experience. Well, in this particular case, I was coming up out into consciousness, but right before I got there, what I believe happened, because I was kind of dreaming before this, and then I instantly astral projected, and at least that's what I thought occurred, because it was like instantaneous. In one moment, I felt kind of like I was in a dream, and in another moment, I popped into this place that was a kind of, you know what it seemed to me to be? It was like a bar. That was my perception. It was a bar, and there were, seats, stools around the bar. They were very comfortable seats, by the way. And around me were people, and it was almost like an audience around me. These people were sort of spectators, and they were watching. Now, a split second after this, my good friend appeared. I had a good friend that passed, I think, within the last year or so. And I talked about it on this channel. I gave a bit of a tribute video to my friend that had passed. It was a shocking thing that had happened. And since that time, I've had contact with my friend at least once, where I saw him. He looked wonderful. He looked young. I was able to shake his hand. It was a very kind of a brief experience, but it was very satisfying, because after that experience, I knew that he was okay, and that was a very important thing to me. When I saw my friend this time, I was so happy to see him. It had been some time since the last time I saw him. He still looked young and just wonderful. And interestingly enough, the first thing when I saw him, I looked at him. I was just so happy to see him. Um, by the way, I should also mention that I remember this, there was some sort of a green glowing dot right on his, it wasn't his forehead, but it was near his temple, sort of. That's something I remember. I don't know why I remember this, but it was a tiny green dot. I could see it. It was like a tiny green light, which I thought was very interesting. Um, but the first thing when I saw him, my first thought was I just wanted to ask him. I said, and I asked him in a way, almost in an interview kind of way. When we were kids, we all used to kind of interview each other, almost like we were on maybe like a talk show or something like that. We would interview each other, and we'd have fun. We'd record on our little radios and stuff like that. Then we'd play it back and listen. And I decided I was going to try kind of interview him in a way. I don't know why I thought that, but I wanted to. And I said, so by the way, how's the afterlife going? And to my surprise, and I was startled to hear this, I thought he was going to, say, oh, it's been amazing, it's been wonderful, blah, blah, blah. To my surprise, he said, it's been okay. It's been all right, I guess. And I mean, interesting. Now, I also want to make this clear. He may not have said the specific words of, yeah, it's okay. I remember him saying, or at least the sense that I got was what he was communicating to me was that it was okay. It was kind of average. By the way, I realized later that, my friend never opened his mouth. This was all telepathic. So it's so funny. Telepathy, I had always thought was going to be something where you hear a voice in your head and you would communicate in that same way with the other person. And I have heard a voice before, but more times than not, I mean, way more times when I have had any kind of telepathic communication with beings, it has always been a sense or a feeling that I would get communicated to me. And it's very hard to explain to folks because the way we communicate in the 3D world is through talking, and it's different. It's so different out there. It really, truly is. But this was the impression that I got, that he was having an okay time. And it surprised me when he said it. I will say that it did surprise me that he said that. But then after that, something else really startled me. And I wasn't expecting the meeting in the first place. But what he communicated to me next, I was not expecting. And that communication was that he was coming back. And I remember saying in my, through communicating through my thoughts, oh my gosh, you're coming back. It was like this realization, you are coming back. You are reincarnating. And it was nice to hear it, Interesting. I will share something personal with you right now that I've never shared on this channel. And that is this: whenever it is that I leave this planet, whenever that happens to be, whenever I pass on, my intent is not to come back. Being a traveler and experiencing all the things I have experienced so far, I understand that there is, for me, a lot out there to see and to do. And so I don't have any plans on coming back. I want to travel and do my thing. I mean, that doesn't mean that my mind might not change, but at this point, this is the way that I feel about it. But interestingly enough, my experience with him ended right here in this moment. But when I was speaking with my mom about it, we got into a conversation. And one of the things that came up was choice. One's choice in the afterlife. Now, let me go into this in saying that my belief is that once we pass, there is a moment where, or there is a time period where we're adjusting, right? We get into this period because it's the biggest adjustment of ever for us. I mean, in regards to our 3D lives. So we adjust to this new reality. And then I suppose at that point, once we've gone through this adjustment time, we decide what we're going to do, whether we're going to go on beyond this place, whatever that is. And I still don't really have a grasp on what that is, what is beyond the 3D world in that sense, once we no longer have a body, or are we going to hang out, do whatever we're going to do? But in my thought process of choices, I think I'd never really thought about this part, which was, well, this is what I thought. I always thought that once we left, once we didn't have a body anymore and we were going beyond, that we would naturally connect with our more expanded selves, or what some folks like to call their higher self, which I don't like to call because it's you. So I don't know how it's higher than you if it's you, but it's a more expansive part of you. And so speaking to my mom on this subject, I started really thinking about it. If it is our choice, then perhaps we have a choice on whether we're going to connect with that more expanded self. I just thought it would be a natural thing that's what would happen. And then we would understand everything. We would have this, grand vision. We would be able to know all of these things that we didn't know before, but that's not necessarily the case. That depends on what we want. That depends on a lot of different things. That depends on, whether we want to do that or do we want to come back and have another experience on the planet? And again, it is our choice. It isn't like we have to keep coming back over and over again to learn certain things. There is no have to. We make the choice. We choose. We say, it would be interesting to experience A, B, and C. So I'd like to go experience that. I'd like to go learn this. It's almost like, I guess, choosing courses in a college or something, where you're choosing what you want to learn, but you're not forced to do anything. Nothing is forced. And thinking about it in this way, it just really made me think about taking ownership, taking responsibility of our own lives. I know it's a scary thing. It really is a scary thing to take that ownership and to even think about the fact that we may actually be in control of our afterlife. But I think it's something to think about. I'd certainly love to hear your thoughts on the subject and love to hear what you think may happen after we go, with the thought and with the understanding that none of us is really going to know for sure until we make that journey. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me today. And until next time, take care.